Alright, y'all. So today this is gonna be a little bit of a, I guess, hope video. Not really a news video, but today I'm gonna be talking about my hopes and wishes for RWBY Volume 10 and any other future volumes. The rumored 11 and 12 volumes that are allegedly supposed to finish this series. Now, there hasn't been much news at the time I'm making this video about a RWBY Volume 10. We know that Wiz Media bought the franchise and that they're apparently working with some of the creators who originally worked on the series at Rooster Teeth, including the creator, or I guess the creator that's been doing the show for the last few years, Carrie. And I think in July of last year, 2025, he announced basically that they are super deep in the pre-production for Volume 10. And I think there's been a little bit of clips and additional stuff that's been made for Volume 10, but not much has been known, and it's been very radio silent. So just kind of wanted to just make this video to give my thoughts on a RWBY Volume 10 and my hopes and wishes for it. RWBY is just a very polarizing series for many different reasons. It goes up and down. I think it's always been a great concept, but the execution has always been very floppy, wishy-washy. Sometimes it's great and executed well, and sometimes it's just, well, you know. But, Volume 10, we are going into a completely new continent, Vacchio on Remnant. Really cool stuff, but I am hoping that we get a lot of really interesting things, and I think that there's going to be some new exciting stuff. So what are my hopes and wishes for a Volume 10? Well, I, number one, want to see a good part about Vacchio. I feel like some of the volumes kind of sort of just continue along with the quest. Characters sometimes go along a path. They talk to some people in the town, and that's it. And you don't necessarily get an idea of that continent on Remnant. I will say that the later ones, that like Atlas that we saw in the last two volumes, were really cool, and I think we got an idea of how they work and operate as a society in that part of Remnant. Haven, I wouldn't say not necessarily so much. I hope that when we actually go to Vacchio, we get a good exploration of what Vacchio is like. Desert-like environments, but also the people that live there, the ton of faunus that live there, the creatures, the environment, the culture, the history. I would like to see, because that's one of the things why, beyond, of course, the main story of RWBY, we're getting to see all these exotic locations. So I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more of Vacchio's history and really just a good exploration of the place. I'm also fully expecting Sun and Neptune and his team to come into play for Volume 10, which is going to be awesome. I'm sure when he sees Blake and Yang, it's going to be an interesting conversation right there. I will say that I hope, because one of the things is that it was hinted that Sun and Blake might have had a thing, and then that really didn't become a thing because he left in Volume 6. I am hoping that the writers do not do some cringe-ass love triangle shit. Like Blake, Sun, and Yang. No. Just keep it as Yang and Blake, and Sun just is cool with it. I hope that's what they're going to do. But yeah, I'm hoping at least Sun's going to come into play, and he's going to be a good portion of the team. Maybe we'll even get to see his other members that he leads, so to speak. But that is really going to be something really cool. I'm also sure we're going to see the Academy on Vacchio, which I think is called Shade. I could be mistaken, but I'm sure we're also going to get a full exploration of that, which is really going to be awesome. I'm also really curious if we're going to see like a team of hunters, so to speak, that like leads in Vacchio. Either these are students of the Academy or maybe even the government of Vacchio, so to speak, which from what I've heard, Vacchio is more of a lawless realm. Like, there's a lot of more, I guess, liberties in terms of the government there, even if there is. Like I said, I'm not the expert on RWBY lore, but I think that it'll be really interesting to see a group or a set of characters that get introduced into Vacchio, similar to the Atlas team that we saw led by Ironwood in the events that happened in Volume 8 and 7. So that'll been really, really cool. I'm also fully expecting all the RWBY members to have fully new looks. My hope for their designs is they, once again, make designs that are natural for the desert environment. That's going to be hot, that's going to be dry, it's going to be very humid possibly. I would imagine that we're going to see just more desert-like outfits, and that would be pretty cool. Also, I'm hoping with the weapons, the vehicles, like maybe even they can wear some cool like scarves and goggles and stuff that you see in like a lot of dunes and stuff. That'd be really cool stuff. So I'm expecting that as well. I'm also sure that Salem is going to be a thing in this season after the events of the last one. That I'm hoping and I'm expecting some kind of major comeback or win for Team RWBY in terms of the whole situation. RWBY's also got her whole storyline that's going to be progressing and her motivation. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all that goes. I'm also sure that Winter and everything that's going to be happening with her is going to be continuing. And, of course, Ironwood is going to be in the background or whatever is going to happen with Atlas. It's going to be really cool stuff. So that's pretty cool. And I'm sure maybe even we'll get a little bit more exploration to Blake's backstory. But you kind of got a bit of that already with Volume 5. But it's going to be pretty interesting. And who knows, maybe we'll even get to see more backstory stuff about Salem, maybe even Summer. I'm also curious if Raven's going to factor into all of this, especially with her band of raiders. That could easily fit in the storyline with Vacchio, but we will wait and see. Maybe even we'll get a big death. Who knows? I mean, can you imagine if Raven dies, maybe doing something or saving something for Yang? That'd be really cool. I'm also expecting the Grimm to obviously take more like desert-like appearances. I mean, we've seen hints of this already, like a giant snake in the desert. That makes sense. But I don't know, just more desert-like animals. Like there could be scorpions. There could be, I'm trying to think of some cool desert-like creatures like bobcats, some poisonous lizards, just stuff like that. More desert-like creatures. I'm also, hoping that the story moves at a quicker pace. Maybe we also don't have to go into the crazy windfalls that was Volume 9. And I'm also hoping we just hear any kind of news about this volume. Like, this has been the longest gap between volumes and seasons and stuff. So I am hoping that we get a steady release of material soon. And also, of course, the action. The action needs to be top tier and high quality. And I don't really know, I could assume, too, that maybe in 10 and 11, they're going to be in Vacchio. For the final volume, I really do not know. They could go back to Beacon and that whole area, which would be totally a nostalgic flashback trip. But who knows? I'm just speculating, spitballing here. But that would be pretty cool and interesting if they decide to go that route with the story. And also maybe the creators can listen to some community feedback from the story as well. Would be nice, and take that into factoring with their writing and stuff. But yeah, this is just kind of a spitballing video, kind of my hopes and wishes and I guess expectations for Volume 10 if we get any news about it anytime soon for RWBY. If y'all have any other ideas for what it could be for Volume 10 or 11 or 12, definitely let me know. Hopefully y'all have a good day, and peace, y'all.